Okay, let's talk about, you come here in 1954.
54.
And so you were, how old? Did I read 7 or something?
I was 1 year old when we moved here.
Right.
But as far as how the stand got going,
Right.
My dad was a farmer here, says he was up there, and he wasn't doing well. He had a rough time. Then Hurricane Donna hit in 60. I think it was 60, I can't remember.
You're right.
Yeah, it was the summer of 60, and we were even doing worse. But the summer of 59, the fall of 59, we had cucumbers, and the market was flooded with cucumbers. And the broker got a hold of it and told him that the few cucumbers that he brought, it might only been 20 or 30 boxes or 40 boxes, I don't know how many it was. So we're not going to be able to sell them because the market's too cheap. So my dad didn't want him to dump his cucumbers because he wanted to use the box over again for the next picnic.
Right.
So he went and got them, and then, he didn't want to dump them either. So he put me on the corner here right where we're standing. It was the middle of November, and I sat here all day long with those cucumbers, and absolutely nobody stopped. So the next day he figured maybe they didn't see him here. So the next day he put up 2 big signs telling people that I was here. And I sold out and walked home. That's how it got started. And the next Sunday we had cucumbers, squash, other stuff that we grew on the farm. Was David Barnes brought me some tomatoes, one of the old timers here. And we sold the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the squash. And next weekend we got a little bit more stuff. We just kept on going and going.
Who owned the property here at the time?
The same people who I bought it from a few years ago. I only bought it a few years ago.
Is that right?
And they would never sell it.
Huh.
Yeah. And I guess it must be around 10 years now. Every year I go to, well, my dad passed away in 75. Yeah. And every year that I would go pay rent, I would go personally, just ask them a question face to face. Is there any chance you'll sell me the property? And they always would say no. And then about 10 years ago, I went in there and he says, it's about time we sell you that property.
How many acres do you have?
I bought 10 here. And he was very fair. At the time it was a little bit high for what land was going for.
Right.
And I had to pay for my building again.
Right.
And it was fine. But it's just, we were on 1-year leases. It was kind of like very...
20-something years, 30 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 36 years. It was strange. But it's just what he was,
Were there a lot of people going to the park?
Yeah, that's our customer base. Without the tourists, we really can't function as we are. Without the tourists, we would be a completely different operation. Whether better or worse, I don't know.
Right. And you say you're, I don't want to put a label on it, but kind of a middleman in terms of production.
Well, we produce, and we also buy. You can't produce everything that we have come to sell. We're starting to sell stuff from around the world. We sell everybody's product from here. We have the hankering for the odd and weird.
I was curious how that came about.
It's what we grew on our farm.
Right.
We grew monsteras, we grew sugar apples, we grew lychees. The caramola.
Right.
We had them we had them. We had a few trees.
Going all the way back then?
Yeah, my dad, they started planting tropical fruit in the backyard.
I see.
And we'd bring it out here to sell it. And then we started to get some sales for something. Hey, we're going to plant some more of that. And that's how it became.
And you get some particular characters who come back for particular fruits.
Oh yeah, we have the customer was just here. He always comes in and gets the papayas and pomade, and stuff like that. So
you're a real, you're a little community.
Well, yeah. Well, we have with our local clientele. Local means maybe from West Palm Beach South, South Beach, Coconut Grove. I don't say local as being here in our community. Homestead. We get our local trade from Homestead now. There's a vegetable or two, tomato or two, you know, or they buy stuff for their ship to their friends home, you know, or something like that.
You ship yourself from
here? UPS goes everywhere.
Right. Tell me what it was like, you know, as a kid, in terms of how hard you worked, and then I'm also interested in your kind of leisure and how it might have fit together with your work.
Well, it's not much leisure here. It's just 7 days a week. Very, very difficult, especially when you're trying to have a family and you want to do family things, and your family's involved in business. It's almost impossible. And the first couple of years, we closed in the summertime, and then we went to the Northeast and farmed, almost like migrant farmers. We would farm in Maryland, on the Eastern Shore, and we worked for a farmer up there. You know, we weren't doing well. We had to have the retail sales from here to supplement our farm, and then the summertime there's nothing coming in at all, so we had to go up there and work. And it's just one of them things, you know, everybody grovels as hard as you can when you're down. But we seem to be groveling. We're not down anymore. I've paid for my kids' college, and, you know, I bought some property, and we had to sell. My dad had to sell property after Hurricane Donna to keep his head above water. It was a mortgage you couldn't pay, and it was only $500 an acre or 5 acres, and he had to let it go back. So that's how bad we were doing. And after Andrew, I caught myself in the same position where I didn't want to mortgage everything I had.
Did you get badly hit?
Oh God, and Andrew destroyed me. I was developing my little farm 5 acres at a time, and as one got producing, I'd buy another one and make that one go. And everything got wiped out at the same time. I had, you know, and I wound up having to sell 15 acres to keep my head above water. And I gave it away. At the time, nothing was selling. And now, of course, it's doing 150, 175 an acre for producing growth. So, you know, but I could not mortgage. You know, without no income. You know, you just can't mortgage everything. The government wanted to give us a loan, you know, and that's a mortgage. Even though it's 3% interest, it's a mortgage. Yeah, I had to bite the bullet. I had to be responsible, or else, you know, I could have lost everything, including my house.
How much time as a kid since then have you spent in either, let's say, either park? Like out in the Bay, I'm gathering you don't have a lot of extra time. So.
And Biscayne National Park, I bet you can count when my kids went on their field trips out there, 1 or 2 days. In the Everglades National Park, I'd spent a lot more time than Biscayne. I don't go underwater.
I see.
It hurts my ears. I'm not a diver. You know, I went lobstering one time with a guy, and they did it with a net. It was shallow enough for it was funny. I have to get, you know. So,
what would you do out there?
The Biscayne National Park, my kids had a field trip, a stayover, I chaperoned, and they cleaned the shoreline. You know, so I'm talking elementary school or junior high a couple of times.
What about
Everglades? We go out there. We went and saw Haley's Comet one time. It was no lights. It was beautiful. I would go to Royal Palm a lot. That's a nice place to get out and walk around. I do have to admit, since Hurricane Andrew, I've been out.
Is that right?
Yeah. This is no time. No time. Yeah. Because like I say, we had closed 2 or 3 years. Our first year we were open, and then from 63, 64 on, 7 days a week, every day of the year. Every day of the year. Christmas, New Year's, Easter, I'm here.
Wow.
My dad passed away September of '75, and we buried him on his birthday in October 3rd or 4th, and we closed that day. And then we closed the day we buried my mom after she was murdered in '92. And then Hurricane Andrew closed us down for 4 weeks. Those are the days we've been closed in the past 46 years, up until 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I've been closing the month of September and October, just to get a little weekend time with my kids. You know, But
you still love your business?
Yeah, I guess so.
Say?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah. A very strong sense of responsibility in the community.
That's what I want to get to.
You know, because it's just communities. Even though it's changed and it's still my community, I'm not going to turn my back on it, and we have not turned our back on it. You know, we always do things. We're developing a new trail in our community. You get in your car and drive around this map,
right.
You know, and that will be off the ground in November, I hope. Or
this isn't the Redland Riot? Is that the
Redland Tropical Trail. It's patterned very much after the Redland Riot. But a bunch of us got together and put money up. A large sum of money for a small businessman, and trying to get this thing kicked off the ground. We like to do things with our local parades in town. Every parade we're in, and of course we like to help out with the seniors over at the senior center.
What do you do there?
Oh, give all kinds of stuff all the time. Just, you know, they're hungry people who either take medicine and don't eat, or eat and don't get their medicines. So,
do you feel associated most closely with the city of Homestead, would you say?
Or
Redland?
Redland's Florida City and Homestead. It's a very different kind of community with Redlands being wanting to be a community now.
Right.
We have to include them as far. They were always included in Homestead. When you talk about Homestead, Florida City, the Redlands were automatically included, but now they want to be known as a separate entity.
Incorporated.
Whether they ever get incorporated, I don't know. They're doing that for different reasons, but they just want to know that, hey, we're out here. Sometimes it's good not to be known. Like before, we all got crazy with all the influx of people.
All right. Are you conversant with a lot of the hassle of the urban development boundary line and all of that? How do you react to that? Because a lot of that relates to the price of land.
Yeah, I guess I know if Florida City annexes to where they want to annex to.
Right.
I guess the theory would be this property would go crazy in price, and my house property might drop in price. You know, where my house is a mile west. I'm not. We're out in the country. I don't really want to be in the city. You know, I don't know. And it's very, very, very valuable to me to be in a city as far as this property. The best of both worlds. If they annex up to my property line here and leave my house alone, it would be fantastic. You know, but you know, you're here for 80 good years. You want to be healthy. You know, you can't really. It's just frustrating. Yeah.
So you see the houses, Homestead houses, kind of moving.
Homes and condos, traffic, crime.
Right, everything associated with it.
Not that I'm not. We had crime before, obviously.
Right.
So my mother was murdered out here in her house in the Redlands. So.
It's like 1992.
92, the first and only murder out here. They've not had a murder since or before.
They ever find out?
They have not.
Wow. Going back in one sense to this growth, and finish up a couple of questions there. As a businessman, with other businessmen, what are you doing to either have any influence on how it develops?
Well, we're hoping that with the historic Redland Trail, instead of property being sold for houses because it's so valuable, make it more profitable to be a farmer and have farming business on it or something. Or I would hope it would be neat to have dotted through the community beautiful bed and breakfasts on these farms.
So it'd be like
agritourism, yeah. Instead of developing the farms, leave them farms, but farms that can make money in different ways. Kind of like Schnabley's winery. You know, he's a farmer, but he's trying to make wine out of his discards, carambola, lychee, guava, and stuff like that, and keep the farm instead of selling it out for a nursery or to build homes. You know, as long as he can make money on it, there's no need to sell it.
Are you pessimistic or optimistic about that direction?
I'm hoping it'll go. I got a feeling economic stress is going to keep the development from continuing.
The economy right now.
I think this country's in for 20 years of really horrible economic stress. I don't think we've moved in too much of the right direction with our government being crooked on both sides. You know, Republicans and Democrats, the only thing they're doing is trying to find money for their own personal pocket legally, and absolutely nothing for what the office is supposed to be serving. And I don't care from councilman all the way up to President of the United States. I'm not putting the blame on any one. It's the whole system. Back when we had our artificial fuel shortage, back when I was a young man, and they had all the gas lines, there was no fuel. Why didn't we as a country develop the fuel sources that they claim they've already got?
You mean after the Arab?
No, this was in 76, 70, whatever it was. You know, there's no more oil, and all of a sudden we got 20, 30 years later, we got still plenty of oil. We should burn as much fuel as we did before. Everybody's got to realize that. The price is still $3.50 a gallon.
Relatively cheap, you mean?
Well, you're not standing in line because there is none. See, that's we're not using any less. We're just paying more.
There's some people that talk about with the rising cost of fuel, it would be far more expensive, for example, to bring in produce from California in the future.
Well, of course.
So there'd be far more locally grown.
But you can't grow lettuce here. You can't grow stuff, wonderful grapes, table grapes, you don't want to limit yourself. You know, we're still going to sell beautiful stone fruit from California, and plums and nectarines and stuff. It's what we're used to. It's what we're going to want. You know, we're used to the best in this country. But you know, it's just funny that, you know, if we're paying 90 cents a gallon, or when I was first started driving, it was 28 cents a gallon for gasoline. You know, you got to figure, if there was a shortage, if there was none, we'd be standing in line for it. Now that was going to come too. But all it is now is the big oil companies have got everybody pocket. Everybody, all the politicians are in their pocket. You know, they're all getting paid, so nothing gets done.
Big cars coming out of Detroit.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We want our big cars and fast cars, you know. But if we didn't buy them, they wouldn't make them. It's just a situation where 20 years is going to take at least 20 years, in my mind. I mean, how do you stop it?
Get people to think through a lot.
How do you get out of Iraq? You know,
you get involved in local politics?
I try not to. It hurts everybody's feelings. And I'm on a couple of I'm on a couple of boards in town, and sometimes I'm the odd man out. Sometimes I'm a registered Republican, but I'm probably the most liberal Republican you ever seen. You know, but some of like I'm on the Farm Bureau board. Most farmers are anybody who works really hard and spends their own money on something they're trying to get back, you know, gambles with their own earth and stuff. They're usually Republican. Very, very few farmers Democrat. They say, not that it's good or bad, but they're really, really conservative. And like I'll be the odd man out.
How do you account for yourself? How do you figure, where did it come from?
I can see both sides.
I mean, your dad, political talk going
on? No, I can just see both sides. I farm, and yet I buy from the farmers. I sell to the public, and yet I am a consumer. I buy. You know, I can see both sides. I can see someone struggling and can't make a living that needs help, and then I see others that are complaining they didn't make any money this year as they're buying their brand new $180,000 car. You know. I see both sides.
What about questions of pesticides around here?
They have really, really changed.
You remember first hearing about the problem?
I learned it firsthand. My dad started at Flood Control in 1970 because he quit farming. He got out of the farming business a year before I got into the farming business. And the first job he had at Flood Control was applying the aquatic weed killer on the canal banks. And he killed a bunch of fish by applying this, and he refused to do it anymore. And he got fired for not obeying the foreman's order. And he wouldn't let himself be fired.
Like a whistleblower or something?
Well, he says we're gonna have news media and newspapers here in the office, and then you can fire me. You know. And he called one of the news media down, and it wound up that he wasn't fired, as long as he didn't, you know. And then they started doing it different. Okay, but yet they still used the pesticides unsafe for the humans that were putting it on. No mask, no suit, no information on what it can do to you. It was basically Agent Orange. And 5 years later, I sat down with my doctor that just examined my dad because he was really in bad shape. And he says, your dad's got a really severe advanced case of leukemia. He says about 5 years he must have had this. And you count back 5 years, and that's when he started. Now, with the pesticides on the crops, we have to be certified to buy it. You have to prove where you put it. You have to use the labeled product for the crop you're doing it on. You want to wear your mask and your gear and everything. And you can't overdose it.
Right.
You know, they've got and the stuff they're using goes away after 4 hours.
Are a lot of some farmers angry at overregulation in those terms?
Well, most of them are really aggravated with having to be regulated.
Yeah, period. Yeah.
But they're really happy that we're regulated because we're producing such a safer crop.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
If you get caught doing it illegally, it's financially suicide. Because it'd be better to import drugs than to get caught using pesticides illegally. It's really strict, and that's the way it has to be. You know, and everybody who I know who's doing it legally is they you know, it's frustrating. You go 55 miles an hour, and you go 80, you get there quicker. And yet we're saving fuel and saving lives by not crashing or whatever, doing 55, and it does frustrate you. But when you're spraying chemicals, the safety, I think most everybody I talk to, and we go to these meetings, we got to keep our credits up, and it's aggravating. It's frustrating, but everybody's on the same page, because nobody wants to put out a product that's not safe. Yet we want to produce stuff that's disease-free, that's pest-free. I don't care how much organic stuff you do down here, it's going to have diseases and pests in it, and that's not good either.
Is there a big push for a lot of organic?
There is a lot of it, but it's a pendulum swing. This way's no good, and this way's no good. In the middle's where you have to be. You can't be all organic. Everybody else starve. And you can't spray like hell. It's just too risky. Cancer, diseases, leukemia. You know, doing it in the middle. You know, anything to excess. It's not good.
Maybe a little bit more about Farm Bureau and how it functions and your role in it.
Well, we try to raise money for farm-related interests, water, labor, pest control, to help put out the knowledge to us fellow farmers what we got to do. If we need a permit for wells, or if we need what do we got to do for a pest control license? What do we got to have for that? Political activism to keep things from getting pushed over and eliminate rights of farmers. Because if you own a piece of property somewhere, and he owns a farm somewhere, and you're both American, which we presume you got your property, I'm saying here in this country, has the farmer got less right to sell his property for whatever than you do? And you know, it's a catch-22.
Towards what end?
It's farmer's own demise, having that right. Because it's just as much his right to sell his property for a big profit to develop as you to sell yours, which is already in a city or something or whatever. You know, as long as the zoning gets changed legally and everything's done, the farmer has the right. That's what we are here for. But it is our demise as a farming community to have it developed. So it's a catch-22.
I think most farmers, obviously, are very conscious of organic.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm thinking about how being proactive and addressing that. I mean, you're suggesting
Well, we try.
agriculture.
We try.
Yeah.
We try, but I don't believe the U.S. government wants farming here in this country. Here, they create a thing like NAFTA where stuff can come in.
Right.
They create things where they can bring product in from countries where you have no control of their pest control.
Right.
You have no control of their human rights issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have no control over the sanitation of the process.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and yet we want it cheap.
Right. How do you how do you deal with that directly here? You get stuff coming in, presumably.
We get stuff from Mexico, and we just hope that our government agencies are on the ball. What can you do? How do you do? Can you show him how to wrap this? Or you gotta go pick up that? Go ahead. So you just don't. You hope and pray that government agencies doing okay. Things are changing around the world, hopefully for the better. You know, as far as maybe better human conditions in other countries, better wages. It's been about. I went to Guatemala last year. 11 cents an hour U.S. is what they get to pay. You know.
I was curious if you travel much in Latin America in terms of looking for fruits and
No,
or whatever. No.
Some of the stuff that I sell, they won't let import. You know, we can only grow them here. That's good too.
What about your travels? You said you traveled, say, to Maryland and farms and other things. Have you gotten around this country much yourself?
Yeah,
you don't get away too much.
After Andrew, I guess it was 2 or 3 years. Andrew was 92. In 95, I bought a van and a trailer and a nice big tent, and we went camping in a tent. My family unit, 4 kids and my wife, and we went all around the country and did it good. It was neat. Did farming areas, and we even did it in Las Vegas, but we couldn't camp in Las Vegas. It was just too hot. So, but yeah, and I would imagine in the 12 years period since then that it's changed from the places that we went. You know, it's just, you know, we've got more people. There's had been more houses built. You know.
How about your relationship to Miami downtown, Miami Beach? Do you go there did you go there very often as a kid? Do you feel it as
after school? We used to skip school and go to South Beach, and that's when South Beach had the pier there, and it was all run down. They had the dog track there, and then I got married in '81, and the pier wasn't too run down when I was in high school. And when I got married, I took my wife over there, and it was scary as hell. And then I guess the mid-'80s, late '80s, it rejuvenated, and it's elegant there now.
Do you go in there very often, or you don't?
I've not been there.
Not really identified with it particularly.
I don't have to.
Right. You're here.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. But, you know,
right.
All the young kids out there rollerblading and stuff. That's, you know, that's fun to watch, but that's not what I can do.
And downtown Miami, kind of.
It's scary too. That's, you know. I go to the arena. I've not been to the new arena since they moved over for basketball, but I've been to a couple basketball games in the old arena. And, you know, I just, when you got jury duty and stuff like that.
But, I mean, what you're saying, one sense, is your life is fully here.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Not just here, but also Homestead.
Homestead, yeah.
I'm wondering a little bit more about the community, the politics of Homestead in the last 20 years, how it may have
Pretty
changed.
much the same people are in the show. Steve Shire was mayor for a while. Tad DeMille was mayor when Andrew came through. Talking about Homestead. Now you got Roscoe Warren. Mr. Warren's been there doing a good job. I think after Andrew, people in power sold Homestead out. to change the zoning for a lot of things to high density apartments and stuff. So they got a lot of money for that. And
there were charrettes, there were, I know there's been all these...
Well, they got money for all these apartment buildings. We are apartment building heaven. And who are you going to have moving these apartment buildings? They emptied Overtown out into Miami city limits. And then now Overtown is now starting to rejuvenize because the population has gone from there. They knocked them apartments down, and it's valuable property. We transferred poverty Overtown to Homestead. And I'm not here to judge, you know, anybody's quality as a person, just their economic background. Anytime you have poorer people in an area and you have a higher percentage, it's harder in that community. So Homestead's having to deal with a very, very high percentage of more impoverished people.
How does that break down, and how does that change in terms of Hispanic or African American, in terms of migrant labor and whatnot too?
You can't get locals to work here. Anybody, you can't, out on the farm, zero. You can't do it. Yeah, anybody working on the farms, usually out of Guatemala or Nicaragua or Honduras, somewhere like that.
How has there been significant tension? Has that changed between migrant labor and business, or
it's always been a problem, you know. You want to have enough help. Now it's a real problem because if you get caught with someone illegally here, you're in big trouble.
You feeling the heat? A lot of farmers.
I know. Yeah, a lot of farmers quit. Tommy Tolbert, he flat out quit farming. That's one of our best farmers, and that was one of the factors. You know, you can get caught with someone giving him a phony Social Security number, and it's his fault. You know, he has to be, and you can't track down a phony one. This is your name and your Social Security, and you go run it. Yeah, it's a good one, so you're working, but it's really not yours.
How long has this been so heightened?
Well, when it was in the news last year.
The last couple of years.
Yeah, it's always been a little bit of a problem, but it's a situation where, you know, everybody deserves to make a living. And you don't want to see anybody go hungry. And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. Here you got work that needs to be done, and you can't hire these people that are here because they're illegal. And they'll find your house to break into. They'll find his house to break into. You know, they're going to eat. I'll tell you that right now. Whether you work them or whether you let them just pillage to the countryside. You know, and then if we catch them as a criminal, then we get to house them in our prisons. And then, I mean, where's the answer? That's where you asked me before if I got involved in politics. Good reason not to.
How about your relationship with Everglades National Park, let's say administration?
Oh, we have a director down there now that's just wonderful.
Good.
He's just everything I've talked to him about, I've seen he doing, he's done. He said, wow, he actually did the most unbelievable thing and came to a Farm Bureau meeting, which the National Park and the Farm Bureau has been at odds for years.
How so?
When one says black, the other one says white.
Is there any particular issue?
I don't want to get into it. Okay. But it's always been that way. And it's always been known, it's documented. And he comes to the Farm Bureau meeting last month, and we as members of the Farm Bureau, which I'm in a real good relationship with the director already as far as person, but everybody goes, wow. This guy's telling us that he's tickled to death to have the farmers as a green space between the National Park and urban development. He's tickled to death to have us. He says, whatever we can do as a national park to make your job easier politically or whatever you need. Let us help you. If there's something that you need us to help you with, you know, it was good.
Does that relate to marketing too, or not?
No, I don't know about marketing. It's just like water issues, trying to help out with the oil, because the Army Corps is really killing us with too much water here.
Right.
Where a a lot of places we have a water issue in reverse. Not enough water. From 41 south, we've got too much water. And they're still making us buy our water rights, even though we have so much water we can't use it all. And always been that way, always will be. Because we're like a funnel.
Right.
We're at the little, it's just the way it is. So, you need a question. You can go this way. Go ahead. Yeah. So anyway, with the national parks, I would imagine some of them have more of a problem with them at the Biscayne National Park, the farming, because a lot of the lands are declared wetlands,
right.
Whatever. Whether that's a national park that does that, I don't know. And some of these guys are farming tree farms. They're saying, oh, they're wetlands, you got to take trees off. They weren't declared wetlands before, now they are. It's just because the water's so hot.
Right. Do you remember the struggle with all over Biscayne National Park and Islandia and back in the 60s? And essentially the eventual creation of Biscayne National Park and some of the struggles over it? Were you pretty young, I guess? But
don't know if hold on.
Sure.
6 or 7 right now.
But
during this season, 23.
Is that right?
25. It's really slow right now. Plus we're going to close. Some of the kids graduated high school and went to college.
You get people coming back for years.
I try to. But this year we're going to have a rough time. This year we're going to have to start out with a whole bunch of new people this year. Because we got a lot of people moving on this year.
Do you notice change in people who work here, in terms of their attitudes towards work or farming or anything like that at the time?
You got an attitude. People have. You can't generalize. You got some people that are go-getters and they're happy and they're fun and they work and they take responsibility and have pride. And then you have some that you try not to get the ones that don't have pride. You care less.
Go bad at it.
They try to. They're trying to make their hourly wage.
Right.
And that's it. And they don't realize that they got to do 5 times their hourly wage to make it go.
Yeah.
I can't afford to have them here if I'm just going to break even on just what they're making. So,
I have another general question. Are you very religious yourself or not? And I'm wondering about the role of religion and homestead in this area and how it's changed.
What's religion? Going to church?
You can define it as you want.
Yeah, going to church, no. I've had the Church of Robert is here since I was 6 years old.
Okay.
Every Sunday, every day. I'm not a believer in too many fairy tales. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs is a pretty good story. You got stories about Mickey Mouse and written down cartoons and stuff. And everybody has to have something that makes them whole.
Right.
And I think that everybody who grabs on whatever they grab on, it's fantastic. Make them whole, no matter what it is. Okay? But you can't look out there and see something grow. You can't look out there and see your kid get born. You can't see someone doing brain surgery has the knowledge they can go inside of a human brain and extract something that's making a human brain bad, and the human comes back and he's okay. That man had to be so smart, or woman, to do that. There has to be something so much more powerful than we can imagine that makes that happen. Be it up there, over there, wherever he hangs out. No one's really convinced me of where that power is hanging out, but he's definitely got it. We can't do this. We can clone something. We think we can manipulate. We're so smart. We have obtained the capability of learning this stuff through whatever this power is. I'm not here to defend or define or control any power. I can't defend it. I can't define it. I don't even know where it's at. All I know is you plant a seed and it grows. We can't do that.
Have you gotten in a lot of religious discussion, debates with people around here?
You try not to.
Okay.
It's generally bad for business.
Yeah. If there's intolerance from heavy church-oriented.
Well, church is great. I think the whole idea of church is originally, back before we had armies and police forces, was to keep the population under control. Because with no control, we go crazy as humans. We don't have respect for anybody unless there's a consequence towards us. And that's what it was. They have to have a consequence. No policeman, no army. So without a consequence, you go in and rape someone's wife and screw you. You know, you got no rebuttal. Now that we have police force and everything else, the least consequence, the less consequence we apply to people, starting at an early age. Screw you, I can handle that consequence. They go do more, you know. So we need a structure as humans. I don't mean as man or woman or you or I mean as humans. We need a structure. And as far as religion goes, if they keep their nose clean and make everybody be happy for everybody else, and not worry about twisting someone's arm to believe like you believe, or I'm going to kick your ass if you don't believe, you know, it's just if religion would stay as what every person needs. If you need that when you go there, if you need this when you go there, if you need that when you go there, and that one fits you. But they all wind up talking about us, about some other religion, and how yours is so much better than theirs, and instead of love and friendship and letting everybody get along.
And I guess where you started this too was talking about. I think I've heard the beauty of what you grow and what you deal with here too. I'm wondering about some kind of mystical or kind of religious feelings that you get.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, that's what makes you believe there's something bigger than anybody can imagine. You know, but I'm not going to try to convince you in what I believe.
But what is it?
But you can't deny the seed growing and making a plant, and how you can graft another tree onto that and change it. You know, we're manipulating through education. We're smart enough because someone gave us the power to learn and be educated in how to graft and how to plant and how to keep diseases off and how to do things. You know, there's
also I'm just jumping into it, even the marketing and your creation, if you will, of a lot of different spreads and all sorts of different foods. Beauty in that.
I think there's you'd be a fool if you didn't think there was a real religious power in the world. You know, religious might be the wrong word to use. You know, but there's a greater power than we all can imagine.
Since it comes from the land?
It's just, everything's got circles. You know, everything goes in a circle. Everything's evolving and changing and everything else. But when it comes back to it, something's got to grow new. And we can't sit down in a lab and develop a seed to make anything. We can change a seed. They can genetically alter it by pollinating it different, change that. But we just can't say, okay, here's a seed to a brand new plant that's never been known in their world.
Do you use a computer in the business?
I'm computer illiterate. I've never clicked a mouse. Probably one of the few people you ever meet.
Just curious, does the business run with a computer?
No.
It doesn't need
well, my wife's got a computer at home, but we try not to do too much on it. She still pays checks with the bills, you know. Very backwards. And we got into the computer age when the kids got into high school, and all the other kids were kicking our ass at homework, you know. So the kids got computers. And
what about your, let's say, marketing operation here, and how did you obviously get the word out to a lot of people? Was a lot of it word of mouth?
It's all word of mouth.
Is it really?
Yeah. I got the Visitor Center in Homestead at US 1, just south of Burger King. And I'm on their board too. But we're just hanging around one place too long. And then we're doing the Redland Tropical Trail. I think that's gonna be with 8 of us sharing customers, and then getting a little publicity from simply being the organization. And the local markets, local TV and newspapers are starting to show interest, you know, because we have a changing tourism trade, I think.
Cultural tourism.
Well, I think we have a changing tourism because I think we might not have enough people with enough money to come down here twice a year or once a year. And they might only come down once every 10 years. So we're going to have to get from the 4 or 5 million people that are in our community to know we're here. And this is why we're doing this tropical trail.
Is the Dade County Cultural Affairs Council and other places like that, are they interested in what you're
I'm sure. I'm not only on the board. I'm not the president, so I'm sure. Peter Snellby's on. He's the president, and he is a go-getter. He's got real political with it. Got politics involved. Wanting money from this and that and the other, and help. You know, they're trying to get me on another board, which I can't remember the name of it, but it's the board in charge of the funding of all these grants that they put out for tourism.
I see. Right. Greater Miami Convention
Well,
Board or something like that? Or?
That's an entity,
right.
But there's a board that's in charge of all the money that they put out.
I see.
You know, which I think is a separate board from the convention.
Yeah, you're right. It is a Dade County cultural, but I don't know
sure what it is, but I had to submit my resume and stuff. They want someone from down here, and I guess they got 2 people they wanted to do it. Neither one of us would do it. You know, on the same day, both of us said, "Okay, we'll do it." He twisted our arm enough, and I really haven't sat down. And they're going to be 4 times a year, whoever has to go. And that's just getting involved with the community.
You've been watching tourism now for what, 40-something
46 years.
46 years. So it's like you've seen it change.
Yeah.
You've seen the people change, I guess.
Yeah.
You've seen the attractions change. Even once it's been part of the change.
I am probably one of the longest running liaisons between agriculture and tourism in South Dade County. Anywhere in Dade County, probably the state of Florida. Because we've been doing it without tourists, we can't survive. It's all tourists, you know, and introducing new products and stuff like that, new to them, you know, sugar apples and carabolas, pomades, you know, the average Northwesterner, Midwesterner, Northeasterner doesn't know.
Dazzled when they
Yeah.
If there was one other thought that you want to leave, let's say, with high school students about the state of agriculture in South Dade, you might not have talked about. Is there anything else that?
Well, state of agriculture in South Dade, it's being changed. It's going to be more nurseries and maybe some tropical fruit. Squash and beans and cucumbers and tomatoes and stuff is real tough. High school students, get as much education as you possibly can, and change it to the better when you get in charge.
What about the importance, I guess I'm almost getting a consciousness about land use in this day and age?
Well,
kids don't know, it's very complex.
Yeah, land use is complex. Got to have green space, and yet the guy who owns the green space has got the right to sell it. And if the father's in charge in the zoning, change the zoning, you know, it's a political system. There you go, get involved in politics again. You know, it's a catch-22. It's farmers' demise, having the right to sell their property. You know,
right to sell out, and go to Miami Beach.
Yeah, or somewhere else. You know. And not work anymore, or not work for maybe less than it was a few years ago.
Well, what you've been saying, though, you've worked your tail off for 40-some odd years.
Yeah.
But you love to work.
Yeah. And I would absolutely be heartbroken and probably demoralized the day I sell my property and it's not here. That'd probably be the end. It's just not a. It's not a life that I can see. But
has anybody ever tried to?
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah.
Waiting. Almost look eager.
Waiting. So to see what they offer. But the lady behind me sold, and they're talking about putting a bunch of houses 10 acres right behind the store, and that's horrible. And it's sold, gone, signed, delivered. She got $1.5 million for 10 acres.
And the zoning changes and whatnot.
Apparently, it's no problem. I don't know. It's in the Miami Herald. Someone told me last Sunday or Saturday.
Where do you get most of your sources of news from? The mouth again, or the
no,
or the TV? Or?
I get a lot of news through the Farm Bureau. I get a lot of news on TV. The local newspapers, pretty good. I don't read the Herald as much as I should. I just don't have time to sit down. The Homestead newsletters, the factual news or the news in the newsletter, you can get it in 2 or 3 sections, and the rest of it's filler. Where in the Herald, there's news all through it, and you got to have time to sit down. Just not manage my time well enough to take the time to do it. But you know, my wife reads a lot. She comes across something, or people who work with me or for me, and, you know, her friends, my mother-in-law, you know, it's just like everyone else.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I'll try to show you some of this.